For a lot of new parents, the big question isn't if they want another baby, but when. And if you're breastfeeding, that question it gets really complicated. The common wisdom basically says you have to choose. You either wean your child or you wait to conceive. But what if you don't want to do either? We're about to dive into the story of one person who decided to challenge that idea, and she tracked every single step of her journey to find a different answer.
This is the real heart of the problem, isn't it? For so many moms, that breastfeeding bond is it's precious. It's something you're not ready to let go of. But that desire for another child, it can be just as powerful. So you're stuck with this really difficult choice. And suddenly the goal becomes so much bigger than just getting pregnant. It's about growing your family without having to sacrifice this incredible connection you've already built.
And this right here, this is the frustration that kicked this whole thing off. When she started looking for answers, the advice she found was pretty much all the same, and for her, totally unhelpful. The standard answer was always, you gotta stop breastfeeding. But what if that's just not the path you want to take? So she had her mission. The challenge wasn't just about biology. It was about preserving a relationship. And that one simple idea to get pregnant again, but keep that breastfeeding bond strong, that's what would guide every single experiment that was about to come next. Okay, so she's got a clear goal, but absolutely no roadmap. She basically had to turn herself into a human experiment. And the very first step, just pure observation. Before she could even think about changing anything, she needed to figure out what her body was already telling her, if it was telling her anything at all. So the first thing she tried was using those daily LH strips, the ones that test for the hormone that spikes right before you ovulate. After a month of that and seeing basically no change, she added basal body temping, taking her temperature first thing every single morning. But even with 2 different data points, the results were flat. No patterns, no spikes, nothing. All right, when just watching and waiting gives you absolutely nothing, the approach has to change. It was time to switch from just passively observing to actively trying things out. If her body wasn't going to send a signal on its own, she was going to have to start changing things to see if she could coax one out. Now, the strategy wasn't some magic bullet. It was this slow layering of different tactics. She started with just gathering data, but when that wasn't enough, she brought in 2 major strategic changes, hoping she could actively encourage her cycle to come back. The first big change was to gently stretch out the time between nursing sessions overnight. The thinking here is that prolactin, that's the hormone that helps make milk but can also suppress ovulation, is often at its highest levels at night. So by creating a 6 to 8 hour window without nursing, she was hoping to bring those levels down. Okay, now this next step is really interesting because it kind of goes against a lot of typical health advice. Instead of watching what she ate, she consciously started eating more, a lot more, not just when she felt hungry, but consistently all day to seriously boost her total calorie intake. This was a test of a whole different theory. So with all these things in play, the temping, the LH strips, the longer night gap, and all the extra calories, things finally started to happen. But the signals were, not exactly clear. Let's just say the path forward was still pretty confusing. And this just perfectly shows you how confusing it was. She finally saw a big jump on an LH strip, a reading of 0.8. On the app she was using, that's getting really close to a positive result. I mean, can you imagine the excitement? You think, this is it, it's finally working. But it was a false alarm. No ovulation and no period. Just a big letdown. So here's the real mystery. The combination of strategies was clearly doing something, enough to create a hormonal surge, but it wasn't enough to actually complete the cycle. Her body was trying, it was revving its engine, but something was still holding it back. What was that final missing piece of the puzzle? And then it happened. The breakthrough she was waiting for. Not a maybe, not a close enough, but a true LH spike, a reading of 1.5. I mean, that is a clear, undeniable, positive result. Her body was finally, truly ovulating. But of course, there was another twist. After all that work to get an ovulation spike, her period showed up just 3 days later. Now, at first, that felt like a huge disappointment because it meant that cycle wasn't going to work for conception. But, and this is so important, it was also a massive sign of progress. A full cycle, even if it was a really short one, had actually happened. So what was the missing piece? Why did this specific combination of things finally work when nothing else did? Well, the answer wasn't just about hormones or schedules. It was about this core biological idea she discovered. something she called the signal of safety. Okay, here's the crucial insight. Think of your body like a super smart resource manager. Breastfeeding already takes a massive amount of energy. So, from a biological survival point of view, starting a new pregnancy is the most resource heavy project it could possibly take on. So, before it gives the green light, it needs overwhelming proof that there's a surplus. It needs to feel totally safe and like there are plenty of resources to go around. It's literally a survival mechanism.
This quote just nails the whole idea. Upping her calories wasn't just about numbers, it was about communication. She was sending a consistent, powerful signal to her body that said, hey, we have more than enough. We are not struggling. It is safe to bring the full reproductive system back online. And this shows you exactly what that return to fertility looked like. The next full cycle, from that first true LH spike to the next one, was 45 days long. A little wonky, as she put it, which is super common when cycles first come back while you're nursing. But the important thing is, it was a complete functional cycle.
And here it is, the result of all that data, all that patience, and yep, all those extra calories. On that very next cycle, they were successful. The combination of signals had worked. Her body finally felt safe enough to respond, and that initial, seemingly impossible goal was achieved. So just to recap, this was the full set of strategies that were in place when it finally happened. It's really important to see this as a case study of what worked for one person's body, a combination of nutritional support, tracking hormones, changing up the nursing patterns, and critically, sending that signal of energy abundance.
And that leaves us with the most important question of all. While this story is an amazing roadmap, it's just one story. The real takeaway here is that every single body is different. Her journey wasn't about finding a magic formula for everyone, but about listening, to experiment, and to figure out the unique combination of signals that her body needed to hear. So the real question is, what is your body trying to tell you?